Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to bring up our last comedian of the evening. We always like to say the most high energy act that we have to close the show. You guys have been a great crowd tonight, and I know you're going to enjoy this guy, the super high energy of Joel Schwartz. Let him hear it, Joel Schwartz! Joel Schwartz!
I can't tell you how excited I am to be here. When I was 7 years old, I heard a motivational speaker named Brian Tracy. And he said, if you could do anything you wanted to do, and you knew you wouldn't fail, what would you want to do? And at age 7, I said, if I could only do a stand-up routine at McCurdy's. March 2015 at 9 o'clock. My life was programmed for me. My mother said, I don't care what you do when you grow up, as long as you go to college and medical school and become a doctor. She gave me subtle messages in the nursery rhyme she read to me. Jack be nimble, Jack be quick, Joel went to medical school and healed the sick. Hickory dickory dock. For my birthday, my father gave me a stethoscope. Thanks, Dad. My mother gave me a white coat and a prescription pad. And that was when I was 4 years old. And then I saw Milton Berle on television, and I decided, I don't want to be a doctor. I want to be a comedian. And I had to figure out a way to tell them so they wouldn't get a heart attack or a stroke. So I used what they taught me. Little Joel Horner sat in the corner eating his Christmas pie. He put in a thumb and pulled out a plum and said, I don't want to be a doctor, I want to be a comedian. And then the worst thing happened. My mother sighed. Now you may not think that's such a big deal, but my mother had a killer sigh. And when she sighed, you had to become a sigh reader, which I was an expert at that. And I knew that that sigh meant you are killing us. They could have taken my mother down to Guantanamo, gotten rid of waterboarding, and she would sigh and they would beg, please stop it, we will confess. My mother was the East Coast distributor for Guilt. She had her own 800 number. So I gave up my dream of being a comedian and I went to medical school. I hated medical school. It's not like you see on television in Grey's Anatomy. You're not making it with a nurse every night in an empty room in a hospital. There are no empty rooms in the hospital. And you're not going to the gym every day to get buff. And I had a white coat, and I was very excited about it until this little girl came over to me and said, "Do you have any fudgy wudgies on your truck?" Well, I did get through medical school, and I interned in Philadelphia at Albert Einstein Medical Center, and I was put in the emergency room as my first rotation. And it was on the 4th of July, and it was really scary. Strokes and broken arms and heart attacks. And the nurse came over and said, "You have to see this woman in room number 5. She's just been bitten by a black widow spider." If there's one thing I did not learn in medical school, it's what to do about a black widow spider bite. But we did have books, and would you believe it? One of the books said how to treat black widow spider bites. Number 1, wrap them in a warm blanket. Number 2, put a tourniquet above the bite. Number 3, immerse the area in ice. Number 4, rush them to the nearest hospital. So I sent her to the University of Pennsylvania. Well, I got through my internship, and I decided I wanted to learn about myself and work out my relationship with my mother. So I went into psychiatry. And I poured my heart out in my first session. And at the end, the psychiatrist said something that brought a tear to my eye. "No habla inglés." Well, I got rid of that psychiatrist, and I went to another one, and I really felt that he was the one for me. He said, "If it isn't one thing, it's your mother." So I worked very hard, and after I finished my treatment, to celebrate, I took my mother out for lunch. And we were having a wonderful time, and they just served us coffee, and I can tell you I am so embarrassed. I had a slip of the tongue. I wanted to say, "Could you please pass the sugar?" And instead I said, "You fucking bitch, you ruined my life." Thank you very much.
Joel Schwartz, ladies and gentlemen. Joel